Baby, you are gonna go broke showing turkeys like these.
Now we're talking turkey.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker.
It's turkey time. Gobble, gobble.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Let's Talk Turkeys. We are continuing season 4. Normally, I am joined by my co-host, Drive-In Dave. He is off this week. And I'm going to be joined by someone, he's not a professional podcaster. In my opinion, he should be. He's got the voice for it. I did hear him on a show that's a friend to our show, the Cinema Shitshow with Nix and Ben Shinobi. He was on there first for the Masters of the Universe episode. And if y'all haven't heard that one, you need to go check it out. Yes, I know we covered it on my show, but they were a different coverage completely, and it's so much fun. I'm not going to go this one alone. Like I said, I'm being joined by Marcus. So welcome to the show, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here and be the disappointing replacement for the original.
No, not at all, because I am so excited for this movie. The listeners don't know this, but I have tried to cover this movie several times before. Hopefully this one works out. The first time I tried to record this was with my original co-host, Nikki Flicks, and the recording was terrible. The audio was not salvageable. I tried it again with my buddies over at the VHS Abyss podcast. Again, their audio of it was terrible. Third time's the charm. I don't mind though, because I love talking about this movie. We are covering Brain Scan from 1994, starring Eddie Furlong.
Now that I have your attention, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Trickster.
What was that film you were watching?
Death, death, death.
Death, death, death.
Part 2.
Oh, Lord. Michael's seen it.
Go for it, man.
Done it. Played it.
Look, I've played them all.
And just when he thought he'd die of boredom,
Brain Scan, the ultimate experience in interactive terror.
Never leave home without it.
You're in the game, man. You're in control.
You must think like a killer. Cover up any clues. Leave no witnesses, no evidence.
a challenge he can't resist.
It was so real. It was sick.
See, I told you, man. I told you it would blow your mind.
A game he can't escape.
There was a grisly murder in the quiet suburban town of Mountview today.
So you did it.
What was on that disc?
It's not a game anymore.
Coming to the table.
It's real.
It wasn't supposed to be real.
Real, unreal, what's the difference?
I didn't kill the man. I didn't even know him.
You're in this now. You won't survive on your own. You started this and now you're afraid to finish it, just like you're afraid of everything else.
I won't kill her.
Shoot her! Wait. The witness has to die.
Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and introducing T. Ryder Smith as the trickster. Brain Scan.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
And I would love it, Marcus, if you could tell me and the listeners what your relationship to this movie is, and if you remember the first time that you saw it.
Yeah, actually, I remember in the 90s when this movie was coming out, I saw the trailer and I was very interested in seeing it, and then I didn't. And maybe a year later, you get one of those free weekends of HBO television, and I got to see it there, and I kind of fell in love with it. At the time, it just had absolutely everything I wanted in one of these movies.
Yeah, it's that crazy mix of sci-fi and horror, which I don't mind, but I say crazy because they tried to throw in that video game element.
Yeah. I worked in quality assurance in the video game industry for 8 years. So I know a bit about the development of video games. So when this movie came out, I was like 11 years old. So I didn't know anything really back then except for how to play video games. So it didn't really stick out to me how wrong they were on so many things.
Yes, I'm so excited to get into that aspect of it. So my relationship with Brain Scan is I was an avid horror fan from a young age. And in the teenage years, I was collecting Fangoria magazine. And there was an advert for the movie. And I was like, what the hell is this? Because on the cover and on the VHS and DVD covers, it's just like Trickster's face. And you're like, what is this? I have to know if you're a horror fan. So I entered the contest in Fango for free movie tickets and I didn't win, but I was a runner up and I got one of the CDs to the soundtrack.
Ooh.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun because the soundtrack in this movie slaps. Like I love the music in this movie.
It does have a good soundtrack. I actually don't know many of the bands, but I was listening through and I was like, I thought it was kind of interesting that it had the music that was always playing in the background, which kind of acted like a soundtrack, plus the soundtrack that was on top of it that was like a composed synth soundtrack.
Yes. So let's run through this here at the top. It's an hour 36 minutes from 94. Rotten Tomato critic score. The reason it is a turkey for the show, 13% for critics.
Which is great.
Yeah, not surprising at all, honestly.
Nah.
Audience, though, a little better. The audience is at 60.
Mm-hmm.
I would put it higher in my book because of the nostalgia factor.
Mm-hmm.
So directed by John Flynn, who did dozens of films, including Lockup with Stallone and Out for Justice with Steven Seagal.
Ooh.
I thought that was interesting, like an interesting choice in his filmography to do this one.
Yeah, to like have action movies in your background and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do a horror movie.
Right? Which doesn't have, some horror movies have, like zombie movies have bombastic action sequences, but not this one.
No, this is very like subdued as far as horror movies go.
And I've got written by Andrew Kevin Walker, and I think Brian Owens. I have it in question mark. I can't remember if his name was in the credits or not.
There were a couple names that I missed. The 90s had notoriously long opening credits.
Yes. But I did note that one of the gentlemen did Hideaway, which was a Dean Koontz adaptation with Jeff Goldblum. He did Seven, 8mm, Sleepy Hollow, and The Wolfman.
Really?
There was a script doctor, I forget what his name was. Apologies to the listeners if you're into this sort of thing. It's one of them who worked on Event Horizon, The Game, Fight Club, and Stir of Echoes. So a lot of people who wrote, in my opinion, great films touched this script.
Yeah, that's actually kind of impressive. This movie has a place in my heart, but geez, like it might be a black mark on theirs.
Yeah, it kind of makes me sad that a movie that has become sort of I don't know if it's a cult classic, but a lot of people that I talk to that have heard of it, they all love it. I've never heard somebody go, ooh, Brain Scan, that's garbage. Like if they've seen it.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of horror movies and not too many movies do what this movie did. So It always kind of stuck out as like something different.
So John Flynn, the director, I did find one quote from him where he mentioned that the reason he was drawn to this project was because of Trickster. He said that when they found the right actor for the role, that he was sold that this was an idea, this was a thing that had to happen. So I do like that when a director gets passionate about a project because you can see the love and care, how hard they tried, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. There were times watching this where I really felt like this movie was like almost an advertisement for this character, almost as though this character was meant to go for bigger and better things, like become a mascot almost.
Oh, 1,000%. So it had a box office of 4.3 million. I couldn't find much on the budget. I saw a speculation somewhere of 16 million. So tanked if that's the case.
Yeah. No matter what the budget was, that's not a great box office.
No, they did film in Canada. So I know you get tax breaks for that, but still. So, okay. The cast, top billed cast is Eddie Furlong of Terminator 2 fame at the time. He was the bankable name for this film. And they paid a pretty penny to get him for this because of his fame coming off of T2.
And I think this is his second best movie.
Agreed. Is the first one American History X?
I almost forgot about that because I don't consider that his movie. Mm-hmm. Like he's in it.
Oh, you're talking top build. Okay.
Yeah. Man, I forgot that he does play a pretty significant role, even though he's not a top build actor in American History X. But still, yeah, maybe I'd say this is his second best.
Okay. So interesting tidbit about that. Apparently, everyone except Ryder Smith, who plays Trickster, had a hard time working with Edward Furlong, and they didn't care for his lack of, and these are some quotes, professionalism and enthusiasm on set.
Yeah, I feel like you can kind of see that in his performance a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
There's parts where he actually you're watching and he seems disinterested.
So we also have Amy Hargraves as Kimberly and Jamie Gallon as Kyle, his best friend. And a note on that for anybody who cares, who likes horror movies. My favorite subgenre of horror movies is werewolf movies. And there's one coming out that's supposed to get distribution sometime with Dee Wallace, Eddie Furlong, and Jamie is back. They're like, I'm not sure what site it was, if it was Bloody Disgusting or somebody went on set and did like a brain scan reunion interview with the two of them while they were filming this werewolf movie. Yeah, you got to look up the video on YouTube. It's like, they look like they've been through it. You know what I mean?
I've seen recent images and video of Edward Furlong, and in this movie I'm pretty sure Jamie was like almost 30 years old, like almost like 10 years older.
Yeah, he was like 26 or 7, something like that, and Amy was like 24, so Eddie was the only actual teenager.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But does that mean you did some research beforehand, sir?
I try. I try.
I'm so proud. You're such a good podcast guest.
Oh, thank you.
So I always like to note animals in movies, and we have Zach the dog in this one.
Yes, I wrote notes for Zach the dog, not Zach. I called him Foot Dog throughout the entire movie. That's pretty much how he's introduced. Perfect. So yeah, he's Foot Dog.
So a thing about T. Ryder Smith, who plays Trickster, he has done Broadway and lots of projects besides, obviously besides horror. And he looks, if you look at the pictures, and I'll post them on social media, listeners, he looks vastly different from Trickster. They did a job on his face, and props to the effects team on this movie, not the digital effects.
Oh yeah.
But the practical look amazing.
Yeah, which if you love practical effects, you got to watch horror movies.
Oh, yeah. I'm a practical effects girl all day, every day, twice on Sunday.
Yep, always better than digital effects. It looks more real.
Yeah, even bad, quote unquote bad practical effects, I will take over CG any day.
Mm-hmm.
And also T. Ryder Smith, I just have to give him a shout out. He's cool as fuck, because I found his website when I was doing research, and I just randomly emailed him and said, hey, who do I contact and send a check to? Because I want to get a autograph photo of you from BrainScan. I love you in BrainScan. He emailed me back personally and said, thanks for being a fan. If you give me your address, I'll just send you a headshot.
Awesome.
I was like, what? So I've got on my wall now a personal handwritten note and an autographed photo of him as Trickster.
That's great.
It's so fucking rad. I was so stoked.
Now I'm going to do that.
Do it.
See if it works.
Totally do it. It's trsmith.org, O-R-G. Everyone bombard him if you love this movie.
Yes. Show him your love.
He appreciated it, like truly. It was like heartfelt thank you. It was really cool. So let's jump in. IMDb plot for this film. Let's see how accurate these are. They always make me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
A teenager is part of an interactive video game where he kills innocent victims. Later, the murders become real. Now.
Oh.
Yes. What do you think, sir? Having seen the film, what do you think of that?
I don't think they saw the film. They mentioned something similar in the movie itself, the whole interactive video game thing. That's what a video game is. If it's not interactive, it's not a video game.
This is why I love the IMDb plots, because sometimes you scratch your head and go, who the hell wrote this? Did they even watch the movie? And also, if you're going in and you just want to know, because IMDb is reputable until it turned into Wikipedia where anybody could, write shit in it.
Yeah.
People go there to be like, oh, what's this movie about? And they would read that and go, oh, they feel like it's giving the movie away, but it's not, because that's not the case.
Yeah, it's not giving it away at all. It's actually pretty poor representation.
See, we got to jump on there and fix this shit.
Yeah, but I'm too lazy. Now I'll look at it and be like, haha, they're wrong. Click.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so before we jump in, one last thing. I was contemplating, I like to do this sometimes, have a game to go with the movie. And I was contemplating a drinking game that goes with every time Eddie touches his hair.
Oof.
We would have been shit-faced
Yeah.
in 15 minutes or less. So
Yeah.
I had to abandon that.
Actually, I didn't notice it, but now that you mention it, it's pretty much every time he's on camera.
Every time. It's pretty bad. So now next time when you go back for your next rewatch, count it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like a nervous tick.
I'm thinking so, because also the thing in the mid 90s like that was for the guys to have the longer grunge hair look, which Kyle, if you look at him, he's kind of the grunge look as well.
Oh, there was a lot of grunge going on in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's jump in and get this thing going. So our movie begins with credits rolling, and we get a mashup of cuts between an outside gorgeous house and a teenager sweating profusely in his sleep.
Yeah, there's something about like the sweaty look. I just think about how uncomfortable that is. It gives me the ick.
Yeah, I was like, I wonder who got paid to do that job, to stand right next to him off camera with a spritz bottle.
Yeah, job done.
That probably pays pretty well.
No business like show business.
You got to start somewhere. So he's remembering a car accident or dreaming about one that he was in when he was a small child that his mother was killed during the course of. And we get title card. We have a really awesome opening score and the score in this movie in general, the music. It's George S. Clinton, I believe.
Yeah, George S. Clinton, because I had to check that, because when I saw like George Clinton, I was like, George Clinton from the Parliament Funkadelics? I was like, the godfather of funk? And no, it's George S. Clinton.
Yeah, I was excited about that too. And then it was like, oh, wah wah.
Yeah.
But George S. Clinton does do some great stuff in this film. And this, to me, sets the tone for the film. Like, if you don't know what you're in for, it's like eerie sounding.
Yeah.
So then we get two shots of a German Shepherd, a beautiful Zach the dog, running around outside with something in his mouth. It's obvious, but you can't really tell unless you've seen the movie what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, after hundreds of viewings, did they not have enough B-roll? Like, why are you showing this now?
I actually thought that too. I remembered the movie from when I saw it back in the day, and I did not remember this. And I was like, it's Foot Dog. At the beginning of the movie, Foot Dog. And I was like, all right, like, why? Because I remember how the movie goes, and I was like, this is a strange placement for Foot Dog. But I'm down. Maybe I just don't remember this movie as well as I thought.
Right? That was a big thing. A lot of scenes I went, why?
Yeah, there were
like,
plenty of those.
Choices, people. So we see his knee was mangled in the car accident, and he ends up now as a teenager having a limp throughout this film. And I thought, again, why did that have to be a thing? Because he's not consistent.
No, that was definitely a note of mine, because I do have a bum knee, and I was watching, and there were times where I forgot that he had a bum knee until he had to hurry. He only had a bum knee when he was in a hurry.
So crazy. Comes and goes.
Yeah, and it was bad. Like when he showed the scars and everything, it's he would have terrible pain.
Right. And you never see him pop a pill for it.
No, he doesn't do anything for it. Like no braces. He doesn't he doesn't limp.
Yeah, that's what I wrote. He's not consistent with his injury throughout the film. So I thought, then why even include it as a distraction for us?
Yeah, it really actually never seemed to matter.
No, not at all. So this is Michael. He wakes up to the phone on his computer ringing.
Yeah.
His setup in this 90s teenage boy's wet dream of a room. Yeah. Oh my God. That water tube that he has from ceiling to floor. I wanted one of those. I'm sure Spencer's Gift sold him.
Oh, I would kill for anything. The 90s, I feel like, did this a lot with for some reason, there's a child in an empty house for long periods of time, and it's like almost like the Home Alone house, but cooler, because it has stuff that I actually would like. It's just massive.
Yeah, and his tech setup, my lord.
Yeah, almost like nonsensical and extravagant. and impossible.
Yes, and everything for some reason is hooked up to his TV.
Yeah. And
I don't know even how that works.
Yeah, I remember like computers were a thing. So it's like all of these things were hooked up to a television instead of like a CRT monitor or something.
And did you notice the Igor guy on his computer that tells him your telephone is ringing, master?
His voice.
Yeah, do you know who that is?
Oh yeah, that is Trickster. Well, T. Ryder Smith.
Yes, and the voice that he's impersonating there, kind of mimicking.
Oh yeah.
Since you were so good with the note taking, you tell us. Bela Lugosi.
Yes. I was I had a brain fart there. Yes, Bela Lugosi.
He apparently submitted several. He did a Peter Lorre and a few others, and they landed on his Bela Lugosi. So apparently he's a man of many talents. He does voices.
With a history of Broadway, I feel like that helps him out a lot, because one of the things I actually kind of enjoy in movies is when actors go a little bit over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, rather than Edward Furlong in this movie was very under. I like be bombastic, you know?
Yeah, I felt like having your lead be so chill and mellow, unintentionally, I'm guessing, makes everybody else around him stand out that much more, which for me works.
Oh, yeah, it does, because as far as like characters, all the supporting characters are actually kind of more interesting personality-wise than Furlong's character, Michael.
Oh, for sure. So now we get his best friend Kyle calling him to tell him about the hot new immersive video game he read about in Fango magazine called BrainScan. I love this so much.
Yeah.
So we get from scene one with Michael, we keep talking about Eddie and how his mood was just down throughout this movie, and he's just a low-key performance. I felt like he's kind of a piece of shit friend.
He's kind of a piece of shit person. Like, just like I forgot about like this scene, like the opening sequence of like when you're actually being introduced to Edward Furlong's character, that it's like, man, this guy is a scumbag.
Yes, I know boys, especially, teenage, they call each other names and it's fun banter, but he just seems like a creepy, no energy piece of shit when he's calling his friend with the names he's calling him, and Kyle's just being super cheery and like trying to get his buddy to interest him.
Yeah, he's like the grunge guy. He's just like, hey dude, how's it going? Yo, I found this really cool thing. And Edward Furlong's like, yeah, fuck off, man. I'm gonna perv and do creepy things that make the viewer very uncomfortable.
And by creepy things, you mean peeping on his neighbor, Kimberly, who I honestly, not to shame her character, but she kind of likes it. She knows he's peeping on her and she's purposely giving him a show. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that was one of my notes. Like, I was like, man, they're kind of establishing right off the bat with this movie that every single character in this film so far is extremely troubled.
Maybe that's the message of the film. Keep an eye on your troubled teens or they'll get sucked into video game murder.
I kind of started to actually feel that a little bit, that like a lot of this is over the top cautionary.
I also noticed I watch all of my films, listeners know this, with captioning on, because I don't like to miss things. And sometimes you pick up a lot with captioning. And I noticed that captioning typically, when they do it for a film, a feature film, they go off of the script that they're given and they put all the captions in. They don't watch the film in real time and put in what they're actually saying. So Kyle keeps saying dick lick. He keeps calling Michael dick lick. Yeah. And that is not in the captioning.
Oh.
It's like dirt bag and other stuff.
Huh. Well,
so I thought that was funny.
I kind of like that. He just decided, he's like, I got my own thing and I'm just going to call him that from now on, like a friend might actually do.
Exactly. It makes me feel like they probably bonded for real on set, because they stayed friends in touch throughout the years.
Oh, wow.
So Michael, like I said, watching the neighbor girl, he goes a step further and photographs her and uses his video camera, which is connected to his TV. And Kyle knows that he does this because he asks him about it.
Yes, I noticed that too. I was like, he's ignoring Kyle while he's on the phone, just videotaping, and Kyle's going on about this game. And then he's just like, are you creeping again? And it's like, oh, this is like a known behavior. It's
Right.
like he's not gonna tell him don't do that, or that's creepy, or you might get in trouble. Who knows? But yeah, he's like, my friend, the pervert creep that you know seems like he's probably gonna grow up to be a sex offender.
Right. He's forming these behaviors at an age when he's very impressionable. So it's a bad
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. This is gonna escalate.
Yeah, exactly. So I like though that they have their own little thing. When he hangs up, they say buddies forever.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
Which I remember in the 90s, I had that kind of thing with my friends too. It was cheesy, very corny. It was real.
So Michael's watching Kimberly on the TV and he comments to himself out loud for our benefit that he is one sick puppy.
And we agree.
We agree.
You are a sick puppy. You're not really endearing us right now. It's you better do something likable soon because you're the main character.
Right? He tells his computer to call her, but then he hangs up when she answers. So he doesn't even have the balls to talk to her.
Yeah, so he's really being the creep, doing the creep stuff, like calling and hanging up, videotaping. And one of the things I also thought was funny is like when he's like, "You're one sick puppy," he's watching a different video that he recorded.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
He's wearing a different top. So he's actually not watching the video he just recorded. He just recorded her and then went and sat down and watched a different video that he had recorded of her.
Kimberly's greatest hits.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, all right.
Damn.
What he does.
So then Michael tells his computer to call 800-555-FEAR. I guess that's the number to brain scan. This was confusing for me. Not that the details matter in a movie like this, but that's my show. I like to pick movies the hell apart.
Yeah, I like that too.
What's with brain? He called brain scan. So is that the company or is that the name of the game now?
That is a very good question because I was wondering the same thing because I was like, I forgot about the phone call sequence. So when he was doing it, I was like, this is hilarious. It's got to be like 9 o'clock at night. And he's calling like the developers and they answer. Like, it's like, hey, tell me about your game. Well, I'll tell you about the game. It's like, really? You're not going to be like, dude, it's 9 o'clock at night. How did you contact us?
To be fair, he does think he got a machine because he's walking around his room talking out loud like, oh, my name is Michael. Please call me back. Like he starts like he thinks he's leaving a message. But the thing that puzzled me about this the most was his tech setup again, because he's walking around the room. Now in 94 with the computer setup he had, sir, you tell me how strong of a mic do you think he really has on this that he can move around his attic freely?
Oh, he has Alexa before like 20 years, 30 years before Alexa exists. It's I was very impressed like with some of his technology just because the 90s also really like to act like what we want in the future is like video talk, which did kind of become a thing, but texting became the dominant form of communication. But constantly watching this, being like, what is this? What is that? Are they trying to, is this like the 90s or does this movie take place later? Because this technology definitely didn't exist. Yeah,
I'm with you. Movies definitely back then, since the late 70s, have tried to predict what they think our tech will be. And now that we've surpassed that, it's comical to go back and watch what they did. It's like, no, that doesn't work.
And I try to be very forgiving. This movie, there were certain parts where I was like, no.
So the man on the line, which is T. Ryder Smith again, explains to Michael very thoroughly what the big deal is. And he's unimpressed. Michael is very unimpressed.
Yeah, it was kind of bizarre. Like, because at this time, like while he was talking with him, I was still trying to figure out like, who is this he's talking to? Like you said, is this the game? Is this like a developer? Is this like, I don't know, like customer service?
So the guy says, look, the game is very frightening and we tailor it to each user from the information in your subconscious mind. When I hear that, I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, so they figure out somehow how to get your brain info and they tailor the game to you. That's an interesting concept. I like that.
Oh yeah, I like that too. It helps to explain away the technology a little bit, where it's like, oh, it's not a video game console or something like that. It's like your mind is playing the game.
So Michael talks smack back, and then all of a sudden a light appears over his head.
And yeah, then that I was like, oh, interesting. And then that happened. I was like, what? What was that? Like,
yeah, it zaps him, and he like convulses in his chair.
And they never really explained what that was.
No, but it's part of the experience, because the voice acknowledges that has happened to him once it happens.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, wipes the spit off of his mouth and goes about his night. And I'm just sitting there like, wouldn't you be kind of freaked out? Like, that's not supposed to happen. I'm kind of curious, do other games that he's played do that? Is that like how they download or something? Like, there was no interaction. He was just on the phone with someone and bzz, we got you. We got you.
Big Brother can just zap your brain. I don't like that.
No, it's really odd. But then I was like, oh, I'm gonna just brush it off. I guess they were a little too lazy to write and explain, a little further.
You kind of get the impression that by his attitude, I guess, that he's seen it all, he's done it all. Like, I'm not impressed, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they tell him that your game has been decided. We gotcha. You're going to play Death by Design. And it's the first in a series of discs. And the first one is coming. And he hangs up. And I'm like, wait a minute. He didn't pay for this.
No, they didn't exchange any information. He didn't pay for it. It's just, we're going to zap your brain and you're good to go. We'll just send it to you. He didn't even ask for it. I thought that was kind of odd too. Like, I think he might have actually mentioned that in the dialogue, where like, when it came in, he's like, I didn't order this. And it's like, no, he didn't.
Yep, you are correct. So he tries to call back and gets a busy signal. So he's like, whatever. And then we cut to school, where Michael, Kyle, and several other students are watching an older, looks like maybe from the 70s horror movie in class. Michael complains this is not as good as someone's hand getting chopped off. He's so jaded.
Yeah, this, like, he needs real gore. This B-movie gore that, he should probably actually enjoy. It's just not enough.
But I always wonder if it's ad-lib, because Kyle leans over and he's all, when does he eat her gallbladder?
Yeah.
That's so good.
It makes me kind of wonder if, like, in the movie that they're watching, like, do they say that they're eating the gallbladder, or do they just know anatomy very well? Because I wouldn't be able to identify that.
Yeah, I don't have the title handy, which shame on me, but this was a real film that they're watching.
Oh,
yeah, I looked it up in trivia and I didn't write it down, but I don't think it has anything to do with gallbladders.
Yeah, probably not.
In fact, now that I think about it, I can't remember a single horror movie throughout time that has mentioned people eating gallbladders. There's a hypothalamus that gets eaten in a movie, but not a gallbladder.
Was that The Relic?
It is. Ding, 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 ding. Podcast points for you.
Yay.
So just then, a stiff-looking old dude in a bow tie busts in. This is the principal, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
And he shuts the movie off and asks, what was that? And Michael snarkily says, a gallbladder, sir. I love the dry bits of humor like that in this film. I really do.
It was good.
Yeah, the kids all snicker and laugh because, what a cut up, that Michael. And Mr. Bowtie is not amused. He hauls Michael down to his office. He berates him. Michael looks completely unfazed.
Yeah, he is very jaded. He does not care about anybody or anything anymore.
Yeah, seriously. It's kind of a downer.
Yeah, he has no reaction to really anybody interacting with him in any fashion. Oh, I'm angry with you. Whatever, man. Hey, buddy, what are you doing? Whatever, man.
You know what it is? We've unlocked it. We've solved it. He is the epitome of no fucks to give.
Yeah.
That is his character in a nutshell.
Pretty much. So
the principal has a problem with this horror club that they are allowed to have at school, which we never were.
No, the violent movies in whatever grade he's in. And I guess it was like a free study class that the teacher said or something. And
the activities period.
Yeah, the activity. And he's just like, yeah, we're all gonna watch horror movies.
He does add, though, video games, the principal, when he's describing it to kind of shoehorn in brain scan.
Yeah, because like it's very much about like movies, but oh yeah, the video game, by the way.
We get more dry humor because he's like, "What were you watching?" And Michael's like, "Death, death, death." And then he takes a beat and he goes, "Part 2."
Yeah, and the principal's like, "Ah!" Like part 2 is
Such a
so much worse. It was part 1 and I was all against that. And then you said part 2 and it's like, what?
Right? He's also the epitome of overreacting. So he likes to comment that senseless violence is not entertainment. I take offense to that, sir.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it is. Yeah, box office revenue would say otherwise. So
You ever watch television, dude? Every
right?
show's like a cop show or a murder show.
Right. Not even horror.
Yeah.
So he compares watching horror movies as an escape to smoking pot and watching porn and rape.
Yeah,
What?
that
What was that?
part of that was that like there were certain parts of this movie where I was like, man, like this makes me a little uncomfortable. Like the rape conversation, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't be very happy if like, oh, it's like the free class, we're gonna watch a horror movie. Rape, no, please. Not turn this off, not okay with that. And then he was like, people don't like people rape people, not like erections or something. Like,
Yes.
and it's like, what? Like, what do you think it's attached to? Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's like the equating the argument of guns don't kill people, people with guns kill people.
Yeah,
I was like, really, dude, we have to say this about rape.
yeah.
It was just weird. It was oddly in there. Like I didn't need that.
No, that was part 2 of the uncomfortable sequences in this movie. The first one being the young girl undressing in her room.
Mm-hmm. So the old sourpuss here shuts down the horror club and tells Michael, you need approval for future movies or video games that you want to share. Mm-hmm.
Which, should have been the way it was originally.
Right? So then Michael zips on home on his little Vespa or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Leading me to believe he's like a freshman in high school, probably, because he's not driving a car.
Yeah.
He stops at a crime scene at a neighbor's house, I guess, where blood on the ground gives him a flashback of the accident he was in. Then a man approaches him, and this is Frank Langella.
Frank Langella!
Finally showing up.
So yes, an actor.
Right? And he and Trickster to me are like the Shakespeare in this drivel.
Yeah, they really are like two sides of a coin, and everybody else is the stuff in between, like the pieces of metal that are there to keep it together, but you don't care.
So he asks Michael, do you live around here or did you know the people? And it appears to be like a car bicycle accident, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it's an accident.
Yeah, Michael's like, I don't know these people. And Langella tells him, go home.
Go home.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's the like first very realistic part of this movie that I've seen so far, where it's just where it's the cop is just like, hey, do you know these people? No. All right, get out of here. Like, all right. Yeah, that's well written.
So at home, and believable is what you're saying in this movie.
Yes, believable.
Yeah. At home, Michael goes through his mail, and we can see that he is supposed to live in New Jersey by the address. And I thought, this is a gorgeous house on the water in Jersey. Like, what does his dad do? His dad travels.
Yeah, for long periods of time.
You know, it was almost like the Home Alone house. I'm like, how does he afford this? The dad, what does he do?
Yeah, it's it's the 90s. 90s suburbs were massive and wealthy.
Yeah.
All of them.
So he's got the disc that says it's from BrainScan, which again, I'm guessing the company or whatever, and says, like you said, I didn't order this, which is true. He goes up to his room and there is let's talk about this for a second, a full-sized refrigerator freezer. He's got a microwave. I can't tell if he's got a stove up there. Probably not. But this attic space is a giant, like New York size 3rd-story apartment.
Yeah, for as big as that house is, it almost looks like that room is too big.
Right? And I thought, why do you live on the 3rd floor if you've got such a fucked up knee? That's weird.
That's a good point, which I didn't even think of. It's almost like dad's punishing him. You
relegate
killed your
you to
mother.
the attic. Yeah.
It was you. The accident was your fault.
So Michael plays his phone messages. One is his dad saying he's going to be out of town for a few more days, blah, blah, blah. We get to see photos of young Michael and his parents around the room. And then we fade over to a party that Kimberly is throwing next door. And it's very loud and it's in her backyard. Again, great soundtrack.
Everybody's grunge.
Yeah, right.
No preppy kids coming to this party.
Nope, it's a legit party.
Mhm.
So Michael sees the people. He closes his window. He's upset that he wasn't invited, or he's upset that they're loud. I'm not quite sure. I thought Kimberly knows he peeps on her. They're neighbors. They go to school together. Why wasn't he invited?
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of strange too. I was like, they seem to be okay with each other's weird behavior, yet they really don't seem to actually communicate or talk to each other. Like,
right.
He doesn't get invited to the party, and she doesn't seem to go to the party.
Not at first. Mm-mm.
Yeah, like she's chilling in her room, and her friend, who like at first I thought was her mother, like the way she dressed.
Stacy looks old for her age.
Yeah, the way she dressed and looked, I was like, God, like she looks definitely older than however old she's supposed to be. But yeah, like her friend is like, yo, you have to come down to the party, and it's like, dude, it's your party. Like, did you just decide I'm gonna throw a party but I'm not interested in a party? I don't get that.
Well, you weren't one of the cool kids in high school, apparently, Marcus, because that's what you do when you're popular. So you throw a party and then you don't show.
Like, well, I was not one of the cool kids in school, so I guess I wouldn't know. So
neither was I. I don't know. I'm speculating.
No, I would believe that if
right. Well, that'd be like status, like, oh, they're so cool, they threw a party and didn't even show up.
Yeah, you gotta show up fashionably late,
right,
to your own party.
So Michael decides this is a good time now. I'm going to shut out the world and try out this brain scan disc that came. And when he is holding the disc, you can see the picture on the front is actual T. Ryder Smith's face on the disc. Yep. That is him.
Mm-hmm.
He ties up his phone line, puts the disc in, and I didn't understand this, and you know tech better than I do, sounds like. He puts this disc in his PC and tells it to call the phone number that connects him to the game. He just magically knows how to do this, and it links right to his TV, and he's up and running. Is that all apparently feasible? Does that seem reasonable to you?
No. Yeah, I was...
Not the answer I wanted, but okay.
Yeah, I had a few notes about, just what was going on with this technology. Like, I don't know what that disk drive was that he was using. He takes the CD out of the case, puts it in another like case that he then loads into his computer. And I was like, why doesn't he just have a CD-ROM drive? Like, yeah, that were like, because CD players existed. Like, so you could just put CDs in things and they'll play. So I was like, what is he putting that CD into, and then putting that thing, like, there's an extra step that doesn't need to exist to load that thing into his computer. And then because you also mentioned earlier, he calls that number and no one's there. So it's like, why is he calling the same number? Like, this basically, it's like a customer service number to play the game. Like, none of that made any sense to me. And it's like, yeah, online, like some games have to like have online capability in order to play. It wasn't really a thing in 1994. Actually, I don't think at all. So it was very confusing what the steps that he had to take to do this, especially considering that just a little while ago in the movie, they just zapped his brain, like without him even wanting anything to happen. They just remotely like, what is this technology? I was very confused.
Without his consent, I might add.
Yeah. The technology is like very nonsensical.
It almost felt, have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yes.
It almost felt like a hand went in his brain and was like reaching around for information.
Yeah. It might as well have been.
So Amy tries calling him, I'm guessing to invite him. Last minute, she doesn't get through. She gets the busy signal, and I love that it is Igor saying, "Master is busy."
Yeah, because that's how that works.
I want that though.
Oh, it would be kind of great. I would definitely like. I don't have an Alexa or a Siri or whatever all that stuff is, but if I did, I would definitely want it to be Igor instead.
Yes, although I did get the Samuel L. Jackson Alexa, and it's pretty fucking great.
That sounds pretty great.
So he dials brain scan, sits in his chair. Brain scan comes up on his TV. Trickster's voice begins speaking to Michael and explaining how the game transmits. Michael scoffs, and then Trickster addresses him directly through the TV and is talking to him. They're having a conversation.
Yeah, I will never understand the technology in this game. That's like my throughout the entire movie. Like, what is like? How is any of this working? I don't get, like,
and we're not in the part yet where it's all in his head. This is like the part where it's supposed to be really happening.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, so this game is some kind of advanced AI. I was like, all right, like the AI thing is futuristic. That's fine, but then like he seems disinterested, like he always does, and the voice seems to get fed up with him. And I was like, all right, this AI is not only intelligent, it has feelings.
So he tells him Death by Design is his game. He hits play and lights flash, and it affects his brain because we see his pupils get really large, which is the opposite of what they should do in a bright light.
Yeah. One of the things the game says, it's like it's going to transmit into your mind similar to like being hypnotized through the television's blanking signal. A blanking signal through the television that hypnotizes.
Hey, didn't you watch Halloween 3? It could happen. Bugs will start coming out of his head.
Yeah. Or like Poltergeist, you'll just go in. Poltergeist was great. Not the remake.
Yeah, the remake was
unnecessary.
Unnecessary is a good word. Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I could do without it. So a timer starts to run, and we are now treated to a roller coaster ride through a CGI tunnel of color.
Yeah, it was a very Lawnmower Man.
Yes! Nailed it. So he lands on the outside of a nearby house at night, and we are now in the game. So for people who haven't seen this movie, why would you listen to this first? I mean, thank you for listening, but why? We're going to spoil it. This is the point where he is now in the game, and for the rest of the movie, he's in the game. We first time watch, you don't realize that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt about that. First time I watched, I didn't realize it.
No. When I watched this for the first time, I was like, all right, he's in the game. And then when he wakes up, I was like, all right, he's out of the game, which was not the case.
So he's going to this house. It's POV, like first person shooter POV, like we're Michael.
Yep.
And Trickster is speaking to him and guiding him where to go. He makes his way into a house.
Helpful narrator.
Which, if that's Trickster, I wouldn't mind so much in my life.
No.
He goes in the kitchen, is told to choose a weapon. He grabs a big knife.
Which is the only weapon hanging there. I thought that was kind of funny when he's like, choose a weapon. There's a pair of tongs. There's a pepper rope.
Death by tongs.
Yeah, it's like, choose a weapon. I will take the peppers.
Well, that would work on me. So he grabs the knife, goes up to a bedroom. There's a sleeping man, a cat, which cracked me up. They cut to the cat several times just watching Michael.
Yeah, it's like, cats are creepy.
But it tells you that he's going to get away with this murder because it's not a dog. A dog would have been all over that, right? The cat's just sitting there going, I don't fucking care.
Yep, because it doesn't. But like if it was, that was one of my first thoughts too. I was like, well, it's a good thing it's not a dog.
So he stabs the man several times. The man leaps out of bed, trashes his room as he's flailing about. After checking to see if the man is truly dead, Trickster tells Michael to be creative. So Michael takes that to mean I should cut off his foot.
Yeah. Be creative. Take the foot. When he took the foot out, my first thought was, foot dog. Where's foot dog? Like, this has to be the foot, right?
Right. And we're able to recognize it because it has a tattoo on it. So later when we see a foot with a tattoo, we're like, oh. Mm-hmm. We get, in my opinion, a proper jump scare here if you don't know it's coming. Because the man shoots up and screams when he starts to cut the foot off.
Which it did make me jump, but I probably should have seen it coming. First off, I saw the movie once, well, a couple times before. And I felt that as make sure he's dead was very poorly done. Like, make sure he's dead. So he pokes him in the face with his foot gently. Like, and it's like, yeah, that's making sure he's dead. I was expecting like a stab through the heart or something.
right? A double tap of some kind.
Yeah. But not just poke him.
Yeah, poke him with a stick.
Yep.
So the man was not dead, but Michael punches him in the face. And this whole scene to me is why this movie, I'm sure, has an R rating. It is very grisly and gratuitous, which I appreciate as a horror fan.
Yeah, me too. I thought the same thing. I was like, this is like a real murder. They did this well.
Yeah. So Trickster tells him, make sure you put that in a safe place. And he leaves. And then we cut to the timer stopping at Michael's. He wakes up in his chair. And like you and I have noted, he is actually still in the game. And I thought that was an interesting way to do this, because if you know this going into a rewatch, you realize that all his interactions in the first like 15 minutes of the film with Frank Langella and the principal, like everybody that he has an interaction with is in his game now, in his mind. Because I was like, well, how would he know Frank Langella? Oh yeah, he had an interaction with him before he played the game.
Yeah, it was all things that existed in his world before the game.
Very Wizard of Oz, I thought.
So yeah, so it's like the game is taking from his mind, but it's taking only the things that it could.
And that it needs.
Yeah.
To play the game. Yeah. So he is waking up from this panting, out of breath, profusely. That spritz bottle girl is working overtime.
Yep, and he drinks milk like a savage. That bothered me so much. It's like, because this is like this, I think the second time, or maybe it's later in the movie, I can't remember, but he drinks milk out of the carton from the fridge that one time, and it just drips down his mouth. Now he drinks milk again, and it's dripping down his face. All I can think is he must stink of sour milk. His house must stink of sour milk. He doesn't know how to drink.
Well, he doesn't have maid service either, so yeah. And I never see him do a little laundry. So teenage boy, he's a mess. So he sees the party going on next door and he decides to blast his music and drown them out. And then we cut to Michael telling Kyle the next day, I guess, about the game as they're walking past a construction site. Kyle wants to play the game. Now, Michael tells him, hold on, I want to play it a couple more times and then you can have it.
Understandable.
That is not how the rules of the movie have already told us that this works. They zapped his brain and customized the game for him.
Yeah.
So you can't give it to Kyle because it's not Kyle's information.
Yeah, no, but I do understand where they're coming from, because like with the video games of those times, yeah, you would always like trade them with your friends or let them borrow them and stuff. And he does have the disc.
Yeah.
So like maybe he's just assuming it works kind of like a traditional video game, but it definitely doesn't. Especially like you said with credit. Yeah, I'm probably giving way too much credit, but yeah, because like you said, yeah, it's not that kind of thing where it's literally like it says, they even just say it to him, it's catered to him.
So they give a high five, buddies forever, and they part ways. Michael goes home, puts the disc in, and tells Igor to call the phone number so he can play it again, but the TV is all static. Wah wah.
Yeah. This I felt like was probably the first clue to the viewer that like the game is still going on.
Yes. So Michael sees Kimberly arriving home. He goes over and gets greeted by the parents, who, again, if you've watched it multiple times, this is more clues. The parents are acting non-human, like pod people, like non-human, like they're just kind of going through the motions with no emotion on their face, really.
Yeah, like you can maybe assume that they don't know that this is a creepy neighbor that's spying on their daughter.
Very weird interaction with the parents here.
Yeah.
And he's standing awkwardly in the room there. Dad yells for Kimberly. Mom turns on the TV. A reporter tells the tale of the murder. Michael sees that it's the man from his game and he acts weird and then leaves.
Yeah.
Not awkward at all. And then he sees more of the report at home and he goes to the crime scene that he saw on the TV.
Yeah. That's not good to do if you think you're guilty.
Right? And then he pushes through the crowd, goes past the police tape.
goes past the police tape. What are you doing?
But that's so he can bump into Frank Langella. Yay!
Like, yeah, Frank Langella again with the more realistic behavior in the movie, which is also kind of funny because like you said, like some of the people that he interacts with are kind of robotic. They have very basic behavior, which would make sense for a video game. Like, and Frank Langella's character, like he acts very much like you would expect a police officer to behave.
Yes, and he kind of repeats what he said before. He's like, I'm telling you, go home for a second time.
Yeah. Yeah, which like almost like if this were like a real video game, that would almost be like the game itself telling you like this is not how you play. Like go back, like this is
a redirect.
Still, yeah, it's a redirect. Like you're still in level 1. Go back.
Yes, that's such a good way to look at that. So then I thought, if this is not a game, if this is real life, like this is not a good look, Michael. Like you don't return to the scene of the crime
and try to break into it
right.
to get a closer look.
And so back at home now, Michael finds the severed foot with the tattoo in his freezer, stacked neatly on top of some Canadian frozen dinners.
Yeah. Find a good place to hide it. All right, the freezer.
Yeah, it won't stink in there, I guess.
Yeah, and like you can maybe throw the cops off your trail because they won't be able to put time of death, although they do have the rest of the body.
This is true. And the cat is an eyewitness.
Yeah.
So he panics and he tries to call tells the operator to locate 800-555-FEAR, which she tells him is not listed. Sorry.
Yep.
Why would you call them? Yeah.
That's another question. It's like, oh my God, I actually murdered somebody. Hey, game developers. I murdered somebody. You probably shouldn't be telling people that.
Yeah, why are you calling us? So just then his phone does ring and Trickster shows up on the TV and we get voice over a still image and Michael's yelling questions at him. And then we finally get the Trickster in the flesh. I mean, not till the 30-minute mark, but at least we get him.
Yeah. Through the television.
That's so cool the way he comes out of the TV and it doesn't look horrible.
No, that's probably the better of their CG stuff.
Yes, and
probably definitely.
Oh, you're right, it is. It totally is. His makeup and costume design, the punk rock inspired look, like the mohawk, everything is chef's kiss. Like I love Trickster's look.
Yeah, he does have a great look.
He introduces himself and explains to Michael he was in control of his actions. And I like that he's walking around the room, looking at everything, and Michael like grabbing CDs and flinging them and like just touching things and messing with his shit.
Oh yeah, which he does throughout the movie. Just no respect towards Michael's shit.
And then he pulls out his own CD that he brought and he puts it in because he needs to play some real music. And it's a Primus song, which I like. He's dancing around, relishing the moment. Like, and I saw this in the trivia, is that T. Ryder got to do multiple takes of his scenes with Eddie and try out different things and different dialogue. And they chose what they liked the best.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, to me, the right choice. Every time Trickster's on screen, I'm riveted.
Yeah, he's definitely a bright spot in this movie.
And Michael's yelling at him, what the hell was that? Like the game.
Mm-hmm.
Trickster tells Michael, you were there, you murdered that guy. And he talks about how it's random and primal. And he gives this really great roar right in Michael's face.
Yeah.
And then he ends it with this really quiet, subtle, I can't wait to see what you do next.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, again, I'm like, this whole movie needs to be Trickster.
And I feel like Trickster just gets better as the movie goes on.
Oh, agreed.
Like the introduction is pretty good, but then like towards the end more, like there's certain parts where it's like, yeah, Trickster.
He shines.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael says, well, I'm done. I'm not going to play again. And Trickster tells him, you have to eliminate the witness. He uses electricity because Michael's like, the witness won't talk. And so Trickster uses electricity with his finger. He licks it and sticks it in a light.
Yeah. He does a couple interesting, weird things that he probably shouldn't be able to do, but he is in the game and he is the game.
He's like, they could torture me, they could break my fingers, they could gouge out my eyes. But then I love that he ends it with, but no country music, please. Every man has his limits.
Yeah. Yeah. Which when I was a kid, I loved that. You know, I still don't like country.
Here's a witness.
2, if you count me. But I'll never turn you in. They could pump 1,000,000 volts through me. They could bust my fingers one by one, by one, by one. They could dig out my eyes. But no country western music, please. Every man has his limits.
So he tells Michael, be sure to play the next disc, and he disappears. And Michael
after reproducing the disc because he smashed it.
Yeah, Michael, of course, doesn't look at the camera, but he says, for our benefit, I'm in deep shit.
Which, yeah, you definitely are.
I mean, if you're thinking it's real, yeah. So we cut to Michael. He's got a duffel bag and a shovel. He's in the woods. He's going to bury the evidence. And then that beautiful German Shepherd from the beginning comes along, takes the foot, and runs off.
Yep. And that's when I thought, I was like, it's going to pay off. Foot dog from the beginning. This is it. And I don't understand the timeline, but whatever. It's like they teased foot dog and here he is finally.
Well, we get a tense scene at first time watch, when you're going through all the emotions for the first time. It's tense because you're like, oh, fuck, he's going to get busted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But he doesn't. The dog drops the foot and the owner comes and gets the dog and they leave.
Yeah. And man, this is the first instance of hiding at somebody's feet and not being seen.
Yeah, he's a pro at that.
Yeah, like right at their feet. And this one's in the daytime. Like just guy doesn't see him at all. And he's not well hidden.
No, it's light brush that he's under.
Yeah.
So back at home, Michael puts his clothes in the fireplace and burns them, I guess.
Okay.
Kyle shows up at the front door. Michael tells Kyle, I stayed home from school because I have mono.
Yeah, I've got mono. And he's just like, oh, okay. That tracks, I guess.
Yeah, how the fuck do you get mono if you can't even talk to a girl, let alone kiss one?
Yeah, he probably just doesn't know how mono works. But I guess neither does his friend.
Yeah, right? Oh, wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
They're very inexperienced.
Yeah. Too many video games.
So Kyle gets pissed off and leaves after he asks Mike for the brain scan disc and he says no.
Yeah, and like emphatically no, like no, fuck off, basically. Like, which I can kind of understand. He might be under some stress. He just murdered somebody.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
But at the same time, it's like, dude, chill.
So Kimberly shows up next with Michael's homework from school for the week. Has it been a week?
I don't know how long it's been. Time doesn't make much sense.
No.
And she has his schoolwork. And then he mentions her. He's like, oh, I was meaning to like ask you about school. And she responds, we're not in the same class. Like she wouldn't know. Yet she literally just came here with his work.
Right? I thought that too. So maybe red flag that things aren't right in this reality. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, something's definitely wrong. You just tried to ask the game a question and it didn't have an answer, so it redirected.
Exactly. I love talking about this with somebody who totally gets it. So he acts weird. He drops the mail. He sees another brain scan disc. He freaks out and Kimberly leaves awkwardly.
Yeah.
And then later, while lying in bed, the phone rings and Trickster shows up and he gives a I'm back. I love him so much. So he tells Michael, play the second disc and kill the witness. Michael says, I trashed the disc. Does that compute? I can't play it. Trickster materializes another one that has a brain on it, which looks really cool.
It does. And I forgot to look it up because I feel like I've seen a CD with that artwork on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I can't recall what album it was.
We'll have to Google that when we're done. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
So Michael says, yeah, I'll play the disc for the police. Trickster sarcastically wishes him luck and then disappears.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the visual effect when he... Whoa.
Yeah, it's gonna rain warning.
Okay, so you've got mail.
Yeah.
Talk about the 90s.
Yeah.
So I like the visual effect when he poofs off into nowhere, like this little beam of light that spins around. I think that looks really cool. So Michael sets up his video camera now to record him playing the game as proof to the police whether or not he's the killer. I actually thought this was pretty clever for his...
Me too.
Dumb little teenage brain that we're supposed to think he's just a dumb teenager, but he figures out this is probably a good way to document it.
Yeah.
He starts the next disc. We jump through the CGI tunnel again. And then we go to Michael, all glistening and sweaty.
Yep. Waking up again, having no memory of
what he
anything that happened, which that game sucks. It's like, haha, you played it, but you don't remember it. It just erased your memory of playing the game.
So he takes a look at his own video footage that he recorded, and he finds that he did get up and leave once the game started. He goes over to his freezer, which I love has a giant, like 4-foot tall Alice Cooper sticker stuck to the side of it.
Oh yeah, there's so much stuff throughout this movie all over the place, and I feel like they just don't do that anymore. Maybe legal reasons, but like throughout this whole movie, there's like products, there's album covers, there's artists all over the place.
Horror movie posters, all of it. But John Flynn did say that one of his ideas of how to kind of direct Trickster's look was an Alice Cooper on acid sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a fun nod to Cooper being there.
Yeah, I could see it.
So in the freezer, we find Kyle's necklace with some blood on it.
Yep, probably should have figured he was the witness, seeing you confessed everything to him.
So we see that he's going to be panicky. He calls Kyle's house. At Kyle's place, we get to see some Fangoria magazines on the table, which I appreciated, and I went, oh, yeah. I miss Fango. We see what looks like bloody fingerprints and papers and stuff, which I didn't understand really. Like, how did Kyle die? We don't know.
No, yeah, we don't know anything about that because they didn't show it, and he doesn't remember it.
But Frank Langella is there with his cop buddy, Sergeant whoever.
Yeah, Langella is on the case.
Yes, he picks up the phone with no gloves. So, sir, you are contaminating the crime scene. You should know better. Michael starts yelling, and the cop says, "Who is this?" So Michael, again, perfectly spritzed up and glistening, panics and hangs up the phone.
Yeah.
He sweats an awful lot.
Oh, yeah, he's extremely sweaty.
Back at Kyle's, Frank Langella and his partner are just standing there, and there's blood all over the wall behind them. I noticed. Then we cut to Kimberly showing up at Michael's again, unannounced, to give her condolences because she heard about Kyle.
Yeah, the news travels very fast.
Small community, I guess.
Also, as like the newspaper, immediately, like they have an article.
Yes. So they're sitting there talking, and she talks about how Kyle wanted to restart the horror club, and he was such a good friend to you. It's like, Michael doesn't need this right now. Like he thinks he killed him. So he says, I really miss him. We cut to news footage on the TV of Lieutenant Hayden. That's Frank Langella's character. We finally get a name now.
Yep.
Who's been working the local murders. I like that the footage slows down into like slow-mo, and we get like serious Frank Langella expression. He's confident cop stride, like totally what I want from him.
Yeah, just eating up the scenery.
Yes. Suddenly, Trickster pops up behind Michael. They discuss the killing of Kyle as Trickster walks around again. I love that he stops just casually in front of the mirror and like zhuzhes himself and makes a face and then keeps going. And he's always going through Michael's shit.
Oh, yeah. The fridge scene was both hilarious and disturbing.
So yes. So Trickster tells Michael, if you don't feel the guilt, don't accept the punishment. And there's a killer deep inside all of us.
Like, as much as I don't agree with that quote, I do like it.
Yeah, agreed. In the sense that I was like, it's kind of like saying you wanted this experience, you wanted this game that was going to make you feel all icky. But it's like, well, he really didn't. He didn't ask for it.
No, he actually didn't ask for it. You literally just gave it to him.
So Trickster tells him he left a clue behind in the second disc. You've got to play again. And he's saved by the bell. So Trickster, looks at him, don't answer that.
Which is good advice.
But Michael makes his own decision, choose your own adventure. He goes and to answer the door. And we get, this is what made me laugh. In this part of the movie, which is all the game, we don't see everything from Michael's point of view because Michael leaves the room. So we get to see just Trickster doing his own fucking thing here. But it's so perfect. I don't care because he sits in the chair, he turns on the TV, and the Three Stooges are on.
Yeah, which actually, like, I kind of like that. Everything in this movie is violent, even the comedy, because it's the Three Stooges and they're comedically violent. They're constantly hitting each other with things or smacking each other. Like, so even like his black and white entertainment is violent.
And Trickster's liking it because he sits back and gets comfortable and slouches and then slouches some more into this really comfy position. It's great physical comedy that's so subtle. And so downstairs, Michael answers the door. It's Lieutenant Hayden and Sergeant Martin. His partner now has a name. They ask to come in. Michael lets them in. He's a minor. There is no parent.
Yeah. There are so many red flags throughout like the whole investigation where I'm like, no.
But also maybe a clue. Like this wouldn't happen in real life.
Yeah, definitely. Like this is not typical behavior. This is the game. Like you did something you weren't supposed to do. And like there were a couple notes that I put throughout my notes where it's like increased difficulty level.
So he takes them in the living room with the fireplace ashes there. Rookie move. Shame on you. Yeah. They discuss how Michael has missed some school, but they talked to his classmates. Michael has made the comment earlier in the film, I think to Kimberly, or maybe to Trickster, that he has no friends. Kyle is his only friend.
Yeah. We talked to a bunch of people that don't like you.
Yes. So when Langella says we talk to people, Michael's response is, I hope good stuff. Why would you think that? You have no friends.
Yeah, you have no friends. You are the creep of the class.
So this is the person this game is tailored for, right? The class creep.
Yeah.
Unlock your inner creepiness. So Hayden tells Michael he was described as frightening, strange, and weird, and the word freak was mentioned. Shocker, not shocker.
Yeah.
So they tell him they're trying to catch Kyle's killer. Then we get Hayden leaning in and delivering such a line with such intensity and yet sensitivity at the same time, as only the way Frank Langella can. He says, if you are anything but the class misfit, which I know must give you a lot of pain, I'm going to find out about it. Yeah. I love this delivery.
Yeah, like you said, it seems like he's somewhat sensitive, but also just, I don't care if that's the case if you're the murderer.
Right. So the cops leave, and this is again another shot of not Michael in the shot. So again, it's the game just showing us what happens when Michael's not around, I guess. But I love the beat of the cops walking out to their car, and Hayden tells his partner, let's check the phone records and see if Michael is the one who called Kyle's house. And Hayden says he noticed that this was weird to me. Again, timeline continuity stuff. Michael was burning something in the fireplace, which is weird for summertime. And I'm like, summertime? They're in school. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Is it June? Is school about to end? Yeah, it was definitely timeline issues. I also thought it was funny. Like I mentioned the newspaper. If you watch the movie on like YouTube or something, you can't read the newspaper. But if you watch like a digital version, you can read the newspaper if you pause it.
Oh.
And there's no punctuation. Like there are no periods or commas. The articles repeat themselves. One of the articles is literally a story about somebody like in the Girl Scouts. But like the title of the article is like murder unsolved. And then it goes on like somebody, I guess, was just writing something to fill in the paper and they were just telling their personal story. Another was like a dictionary description of I can't remember what it was, but just, get
That's hilarious.
something out of a dictionary. I was actually interested because it shows a full screen image of the newspaper. So I was like, oh, I wonder if there's an article, but not really.
Eagle eye. That's amazing that you checked that, because I have to I have to tell you now, my husband and I watch Let's Make a Deal.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they hold up an iPad or a newspaper, we pause it and we try to read what all the writing is under the headline. And it always says shit like, well, you shouldn't be reading this, but if you did take the time to read this, I'm just going to let you know that this is a boring job being the writer for Let's Make a Deal, because I have to make shit up. And it's weird shit like that.
Nice.
So my brain went to that. I was like, I wonder what that says, but I've never paused it to look.
Yep, it's mostly nonsense.
Oh, I'm so glad you did the work, because that's funny. Also, in this little weird scene that we get to see aside from Michael, Hayden is like, throw me the keys. And his partner's like, why? And he goes, I'm driving because I'm sick of you doing 20 miles per hour in this town.
Yeah, which honestly I think is kind of funny, because in one of the earlier scenes, you see the cop car very slowly drive past.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, okay. So he is not doing that to be a detective. He's doing that because he's a bad driver.
So Michael goes back up to his room. Trickster now has very loud music playing, food everywhere.
Oh, it's so gross.
Chewing on a raw roaster chicken.
Yeah, the raw chicken.
What I didn't understand was, if this was real life, I know he has a big fridge, but how does this child have this much food up here? And what is he going to do with a roaster chicken? You know his ass doesn't cook.
Yeah, that is interesting. Definitely. It's like he's going to just cook a whole chicken? Like, all right.
In what, the microwave?
Yeah, like microwave the chicken? Like,
doesn't
seem like the type of person.
I was like, is Trickster pregnant? Because he eats from a plate with bananas, hot dogs, and pickles covered in mustard.
Yeah. And part of me was thinking, it's like, man, to be able to do that scene without gagging.
Right? And he's like slurping it off his finger.
Yeah.
Like, it's so gross.
Oh, yeah. A mustard covered banana. Oof.
It never made you want to try that to see if Trickster was onto something?
No.
So he tells Michael that Hayden is trying to get proof that he's the killer. And we get this really fucking cool reverse shot where the newspaper flies up into his hand like he's using the force.
Mm-hmm.
And Trickster points out Kimberly has exploited Michael's grief over Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's standing there talking to him, did you notice that there's a noose hanging from the ceiling?
Yeah, I saw that's been there the entire time. Like,
see, I was going to ask you, was it? Because as many times as I've seen this movie, I never noticed it until that scene.
I think I remember seeing it earlier in the movie when he was wandering through his room.
And it's so low.
It's very low, and it's a pretty thin rope. Like
you could trip and fall right into it, like easily hanging yourself. And he's home alone a lot. Like, that seems wildly unsafe.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate too much on the news, just with his behavior.
It's so weird. So Trickster cuts Michael's hand with his long fingernail, and blood drips onto the table and turns into another disc.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Very cool and very Clue. Like, this clearly is not real life.
Yep, and the wound is gone in like the next scene. Like, it magically disappears. So it's like definitely a Clue.
Yep. And then Trickster fucks with him and makes comments about the car accident that killed his mother, and says some really dark shit to him.
Yeah, really starts to dig at him.
Yeah.
At this point, he kind of starts to treat Michael like shit.
He hands him the new disc and tells him he has to play it, or if he's too afraid, he could just take his own life and join his mother forever.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can try to erase the evidence or just kill yourself. Like, oof.
Yeah.
All right. Damn.
So he gets all up in Michael's grill, tells him he's afraid to finish everything in life. So clearly you're going to not finish the game because you're just, afraid of everything.
Mm-hmm.
He tells Michael, this disc will be easy. You just have to remove a clue. There's no killing in this disc. And Michael says, there is no clue. You're just trying to trick me. And I love that Trickster slumps down and looks genuinely sad. And he's like, you just don't trust me.
Yeah.
Why would I trust you at this point?
Well, he shouldn't have answered the door.
That's true. So the TV pops on. Trickster is back on the TV. He tells Michael the clue is your footprint in the mud. Don't let time run out. And if you screw up, it's game over. You lose.
Yep. Which was that was one of the biggest parts of the trailer, I remember.
Oh,
Like
really?
that part, the game over, you lose. That was,
Okay.
one of the lines in the trailer that sold me.
So we cut to Kimberly's bedroom. She sees, she and Michael are on the bed. They're kissing, and she gets on top of him. They're dressed. So very PG-13 in an R movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Which they're supposed to be like 16, so it's okay.
True.
Try to be more PG with that stuff.
So suddenly she turns into the dead man that he killed in disc 1. He wakes up screaming in his bed. Classic, horror movie trope there.
Yeah, yeah.
Hayden is peeping on Michael from his car across the street. He sees Kimberly outside the house yelling at Michael. Michael shuts the window, but not before tossing a copy of the newspaper at Kimberly.
Yeah, their interactions are not the kind of interactions you would expect from someone who's too afraid to call her on the phone.
I thought that too. So Lieutenant Hayden takes this moment to sneak into Michael's living room and steal some ash from the fireplace.
Oh yeah, definitely doing illegal stuff as a police officer.
Which, another red flag that this is not real life.
Yeah, that cannot be used as evidence.
No, that would not hold up. So also you notice outside behind him when he's coming in the house, beautiful, clear, crisp blue sky. So I thought, summertime, why the fire? That is suspicious, but you don't just break in and take evidence like that.
You can't just be like, well, just gonna sneak into this person's house and steal things.
So then we cut to a nighttime neighborhood watch sort of rally that's going to be headed up by Lieutenant Hayden. And all I thought of was the movie Silver Bullet. Like, we're going to get some private justice. We're going to get our mob together and go.
Oh, yeah, the neighborhood watch. And the whole time he's giving this speech, he's like, there will be no guns. I will arrest you and confiscate your weapons if you have guns. Meanwhile, everybody's locking and loading.
Well, it is a game.
Well, this was actually kind of a clue to me. Like, just from a lifetime of playing games, it's like, all right, this is a difficulty. Like, he's further in the game, so now he has to navigate the level with armed enemies all over the place.
Yes, so much. Yes. But also you're like, and if it was real life, why would you bother if you think it's Michael? If you're Hayden, why would you bother with all this if you think it's the kid? But,
yeah, if you're pretty sure you know who it is, yeah, you would just get right to the point rather than like setting this level.
Back at home, Michael puts in the third disc and turns on his TV. The timer starts and we get sucked down CGI tunnel yet again.
Yep.
We come out at Kyle's house, where Michael, who is supposed to erase his footprints that will give him away because of his limp, goes limping across the yard again.
Yeah.
What?
He's just fumbling through the yard, and like, to erase his footprint, he's like digging. Like, and it's like, now you're just leaving different types of evidence.
Right? So Sergeant Martin is in Kyle's room dusting for prints, and the phone rings. Trickster's on the end of the line and tells him there's an intruder in the yard. So he looks outside and sees the back of Michael running quite briskly across the yard.
Oh, yeah. He kind of books it from there.
So Martin makes chase. Michael runs into the woods where the neighborhood watch and the cops are all patrolling. Then he runs over to the construction area that we saw earlier in the film. He gets grabbed by Principal Fromberg. He tries to call Hayden on a walkie-talkie situation, but it doesn't work. He gets killed when they tussle and a ton of bricks literally falls on him.
Yep.
Hit by a ton of bricks.
Very convenient.
Well, if you look, they're teetering very precariously on this one pole and platform.
Yeah. It's the workers there definitely are not going to pass OSHA standards.
So Fromberg dies and Michael runs off, but the dog, Zach the dog from earlier,
foot dog,
finds him. Michael tells him, "Leave me alone. I promise I won't ask you for anything ever again. Just leave me alone." So we get 3 men and the dog, which sounds like a sitcom I would totally watch.
Yeah.
They're milling around when Martin comes over, pulls out his gun, points it at the men, but yells, "I'm police."
Yeah, he draws his weapon right at the guys, and as he's saying police, they shoot him. And all I could think was like, that's perfectly reasonable for them to shoot him.
Yes. So
Like,
he
that was terrible
dies.
pro police work.
Yeah, he dies from that. I like that all the men have rifles. Like,
Yeah.
they're all just ready.
Yep.
So everyone gathers around. Hayden shows up. Michael runs off, but gets stopped by a man in a security guard uniform.
Yeah, like, I don't know what he was. Like,
And he lets him go.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, good. What are you doing out here, kid? They just shot the killer." And it's like, I'm really glad that you decided to come to that conclusion. Now I can get away.
Yep, thanks for that.
Yeah, it's a good thing Frank Langella didn't tell you that I'm a suspect.
So Kimberly, out on this blustery night on her balcony in her little nightgown, sees Michael coming home. He heads up to his room, and you can see that there is a minute 50 left on his timer when Trickster appears on the TV. Michael asks Trickster, "What happened?" And I'm like, what do you mean what happened? You were there.
Yeah, you were there. You know what happened. They saw you.
Yeah. Michael says, "I killed somebody." Trickster says, "Well, there was no choice."
You
Michael
didn't kill somebody.
Yeah, he didn't.
They died, but he didn't do it.
Michael isn't paying attention, so Trickster gets mad, yells, roars, and scratches the TV from the inside, which I thought looked so cool.
Yeah.
Then he just wipes it off.
Then he just wipes it away. Cleans it up.
Michael says, "This isn't a game anymore. It's just lots of crime."
Yeah.
But Trickster points out it's only crime if you get caught.
Yeah.
Trickster tells Michael Kimberly is now a witness.
You're gonna walk, like, this is your love interest, and you know that you've had to kill your best friend to hide evidence, and you just walk through her yard coming back from a crime.
And by Trickster's logic, then I guess the security guard guy's a witness too.
Yep,
because he
would be.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he's just piling up more people to kill.
Right. So he's like, "Now you have to play disc 4." And then we see a cop drop off the forensic results of testing of the ashes.
Yeah, we found traces of blood, like type B in the ashes, and it's like, did you though? Like, did you? Is that how that works?
Video game logic. Because they also find Kyle's blood type, apparently. O positive was in there as well.
Yeah. And that makes even less sense.
Right? So then the cop also tells Hayden, "By the way, phone records show that Michael did call Kyle's house." So,
which still, he should have just admitted that from the beginning, because it's his best friend. So like, if you thought your best friend might have been killed or died, yeah, call them.
Exactly. So Trickster scratches on the TV to get Michael to engage with him. Michael says he will go to Hayden and turn himself in. And then Trickster suddenly pops up in Michael's room to stop him. I just was staring at this giant pizza magnet that's on his fridge. What is that? I guess the set dresser's like, "Well, he's a teenage boy. He probably eats pizza."
Yeah. It's probably something that he got at like the little school, like craft thing.
Oh my God. At the book fair.
The book fair, yeah.
So Trickster tells Michael, "You have to kill Kimberly." Michael says, "I'm not going to do it because I love her."
Yeah, and one of my favorite lines in the movie is like when Trickster just yells at him, "It could be any girl in any window, and you know it." All I could think was, yeah, probably, because he's a creep.
Oh, I love it. Trickster is like just his id.
Mm-hmm.
So Trickster says, "Well, you have to choose your life or hers," and he disappears. So Kimberly comes by, rings the bell. Michael is sitting in his room, like in a daze, and completely ignores it. Then we cut now to a scantily clad Kimberly in her bed. And Michael loads disc 4. Where did he get it? We don't know.
We don't know, but he's going to do it.
He tells the computer, "Dial brain scan," which
again,
what?
Why?
Igor says, "Goodbye, master." Is like, ooh, so ominous.
Yeah. Like, I thought that was like, oh, this is this is the end, obviously. Like even Igor knows it.
Even Igor knows it.
Yeah.
So the timer starts, and it's the shortest one yet. It's only 15 minutes. And we time warp through the tunnel to find Michael sneaking into Kimberly's house. He grabs a pair of scissors, and I just laugh because I've never seen these scissors, these long, narrow scissors that are like sewing scissors, I guess.
Yeah. And those are that's the weapon you choose? Like you were able to think this out and plan but ahead of time. It's like, yeah, these scissors will do.
Right? In real life, like my mom had those scissors when we were a little kid. But in our sewing kit, that cookie tin that you keep all your sewing supplies. But I've never seen them anywhere else in life except this movie.
At first I thought it was some kind of little like knife, but yeah, they zoomed in and it's like, oh, scissors.
Okay. They still will do the stabby trick. I mean,
They'll do it.
So we get some really sufficiently creepy and foreboding music here, which I loved. And Hayden shows up outside. Michael enters Kimberly's room. Now, the set decorator, again, for Kimberly's room, just probably thought, what would a teenage girl have? In 1994, we get not one, but two Aerosmith posters.
There were Aerosmith posters everywhere.
A Metallica poster. Yeah. 8x10 pictures torn from magazines. They I don't know if they asked somebody, what would a 15-year-old girl have on her wall? Her room is very pink.
Mm-hmm.
It was just off-putting to me. I was like, this seems so fake, which it's a game, so I guess it would be, because has he ever really seen much more of her room other than what he can peek through the window?
It seems like he might have gotten a pretty damn good view from his window.
I just figured it's his brain filling in the blanks of what he thinks.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, very well could be. At this point, there were a few things where I was like, this is definitely not real life.
So Michael locks the door, comes over to the bed holding those scissors. Trickster pops up behind him and asks him, what are you waiting for? He tells him, killer. Michael says he can't. Trickster grabs Michael's hand and they tussle. Michael asks Trickster, who are you? What a weird question.
Yeah, I'm Trickster. Like,
it's solely set up so that Trickster can say, haven't you figured it out? I'm you.
Yeah, which, no, you're not.
So Michael stabs Trickster. His arm gets grabbed by a terrible looking CGI blob.
Their little tussle and their little warping into each other thing look very similar to Time Cop.
Oh my God, yes.
But like, yeah, the CG merging, and then he pops up with his yellow eyes. It's Trickster in his body now. Which, like, why?
They've become one. Yeah.
Yeah, they've become one. Is this how you play the game? It's like, I'm not going to do it. Well, then the computer will do it for you. Well, oh shit, has that always been an option?
Yeah, right. If you're going to resist, we will force you.
Yeah, this is not as interactive as I'd hope.
So Kimberly wakes up to see this happening. She screams. He's going to stab her. Trickster is, because Michael won't do it. Trickster's like trying to force him to do it because they are, like you said, combined now. Kimberly's able to talk him down by telling him she loves him.
Yeah, which, like, just watching, I was like, dude, I know you're a kid, but this is obviously just somebody trying to get out of being killed.
You're right. You say anything at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Showing him pictures that she's taken of him in his room.
Yeah, which is like, it's love. we creep and stalk each other. This is love.
I mean, really, wouldn't you think at that point, honestly, they're made for each other?
Yeah, maybe.
They both like to stalk each other.
Yeah, it's definitely not the healthiest relationship, more than likely.
No. So just then, Trickster shows up again. Michael's fine now. His eyes are back to normal, so we know he's fine.
Yep, he's back to himself.
And Trickster says, I knew you couldn't do it. And Mike snarkily throws, game over, you lose, back at Trickster. And this is one of the only times where I felt like Furlong popped up, like his personality. He perks up.
Yeah.
In a scene.
Like he really enjoyed actually being the winner for once or something.
Yeah, totally. So Trickster smiles and says, perhaps. And he opens the door and in comes Hayden and he's all surprise.
Yeah, and like I made a note right here. I was like, even if I hadn't seen the movie before, I would know right now that Frank Langella is not real.
Exactly.
That the detective's not real. This is way too convenient. And even with his dialogue, he's just murderer. And he says it twice and then draws his gun at him.
Right? And shoots as everyone
and
watches.
Shoots. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is definitely a video game. That's game over.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, when Michael's pussing out and not going to do it, Trickster like feeds the narrative. Trickster's like, we got to get to the end of the game. Let's go.
Yep.
So he makes it happen. So Michael suddenly wakes up in his chair. He flips his shit.
Dude, he destroyed his house. If I woke up from that and realized that it was all fake, I wouldn't destroy my house.
He goes bonkers.
Yeah, everything. Just wrecks everything. It didn't make any sense.
He grabs, before he does that though, he grabs a handful of food and shoves it in his mouth and then tries milk again, which doesn't make it all in.
Nope. He's so bad with milk.
And he has a hole in his lip.
Yeah.
And freaks the fuck out. I'm like, well, how his dad must have a great job because he's going to clearly be able to buy him all new electronics.
Yeah. Everything there must have been so expensive.
Right. And then an automated voice pops up on the screen and says, hello there, you've just experienced brain scan.
Yep.
And then it starts to go over this long explanation of how reality compressing science can be hard, blah, blah, blah. These are some calming techniques or something. And he's
it tries to tell him like calming, like meditative techniques to like basically chill. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. He should definitely try some of those. He's flipping out.
Yes, and what he yells for our benefit is, it wasn't real. It was a dream. I'm like, what?
Well, it was a game.
It wasn't a dream.
Yeah, it wasn't a dream. It was a game.
So then he proceeds to break the disc as well. He trashes the disc. We clearly see this happen.
Yeah.
Then Kyle shows up. Michael hugs him and tells him he loves him and he's glad he's okay. And Kyle's like, calm down, bro.
Cool, dude. All right. No, the way he just expects everybody to understand how he's behaving. And it's like, you're kind of behaving like you had a nervous breakdown.
Very erratic.
Yeah.
So Kyle tells Michael, don't play brain scan because I heard it's hypnotic and some kid had an aneurysm while he was playing it.
Yeah.
Little late.
Yeah, definitely.
They decide to go crash Kimberly's party, which is still happening.
Yeah, because it's only been like an hour, I think they said.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, time dilation. That's honestly, I would love that. Like, if I could just play a video game for like days and then I didn't actually waste any of that time.
You only spend an hour.
Yeah.
So Michael asks Stacy, the friend in the backyard at Kimberly's, where she is and takes off. And then Kyle approaches very uninterested Stacy.
Yeah.
But he quickly turns her attitude around by telling her she has a bitchin' outfit and looks just like that girl from the video of the song by what's his name.
Yeah.
Go Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle's definitely got some game.
It works.
It does. She's pretty easily fooled.
So Michael goes upstairs to find Kimberly. They go in her room and have a chat. He asks her to go out with him. She says she'll think about it.
Yeah, her first reaction is no. Like once she said no, I was like, oh, happy ending, I guess. And then yeah, she thinks about it a little more and she's like, gives him a maybe.
And then he gets all excited.
Yeah. And it's like, man.
It reminded me of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. I would like at that point I was like, I think she's just saying these things to make sure that you don't hurt her.
That you back out of the room slowly.
Yeah, I think she just wants you to leave because I think in the video game she was in love with you. In real life, she thinks you're a creep.
She confuses things further by giving him a quick peck on the lips before she runs out of the room.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then he creeps around her room and finds the photos that she did take of him in real life.
Yeah, she really did. Disturbing.
The brain scan, disturbing.
Yeah, brain scan. I hope people aren't really like this.
So we cut to school. Michael gives Principal Fromberg the brain scan disc, which so many questions.
Yeah, at first it was destroyed. Second, why? This was a traumatic event for you. And you're just like, hey, fuck you, teacher. Like,
that's what he wants. He wants to fuck him up by making him go through it too.
And the teacher didn't do anything wrong.
But yes.
He was just like, yeah, what you're doing in this classroom, it's not allowed. He's like, oh, I'll show you.
Yes, but also it won't work for him because it was tailored to Michael.
Yeah, it would be kind of hilarious if it did work and he just woke up in Michael's chair in the game. Like,
oh my God.
It's like,
that's hilarious. I didn't think of that.
Trickster's like, Michael, we have to kill this person. He's like, what?
What a real fuck up. That'd be great. So Trickster appears to Michael in the chair behind Fromberg, and he looks very pleased to have a new player, which makes no sense, but okay.
Doesn't make any sense. Nah, like this was I saw this and I was like, this is just one of those things where like the people who made the movie are like, we really enjoy this character. We want to give him like a one final send-off type of thing.
And then the credits roll after a couple of seconds. Trickster's voice says, wait a minute, haven't you forgotten something?
Yeah.
and the screen does this really cool shattered glass effect.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Foot Dog.
Yeah, Foot Dog with the foot. From the beginning of the movie.
From the beginning of the movie shots. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, wait, what? Why?
Yeah, it wasn't real. Why would you do that?
Yeah, it wasn't real. Like, so that foot shouldn't exist. It was almost
tacked on.
Yeah, it almost ruined some of the movie for me.
Agreed.
Just because it's like, all right, you just wrapped this up and now you're just leaving us with more questions.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing?
Yep. And then we cut to credits. The end. That is Brain Scan. So even though I have a lot of issues with shit throughout this movie, I can chalk it all up to, but that was just in the game, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to love the
until
ride.
the end.
right until the very end.
But yeah, overall, not as good as I remember when I was 11 years old. But
is anything really though?
No, but it didn't ruin it. Definitely didn't ruin the movie.
Yeah, agreed. Whenever I get a chance to tell somebody about this who hasn't seen it, or I'm like, you have to watch Brain Scan. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly because of Trickster.
Yeah, he's just a fun character.
He's got to be experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that we didn't touch on or comment that you wanted to bring up?
I don't think so, actually. Well, there was one thing that I did find kind of funny when in the game, when Kim was talking to Michael and they were talking about Kyle, and she was like, my parents don't want Kyle in the house. and Michael was like, yeah, that's Kyle. I was like, way to defend your friend. Like, yeah, that's Kyle. Nobody wants him in their house.
I would want Kyle over Michael's creepy ass any day.
Yeah, Kyle seems like a cool guy. Michael sucks.
The subtitle of the movie.
Yeah.
Michael sucks.
Michael sucks.
All right, so at the end of every episode, I like to jump to 3 questions. Are you ready for that?
Sure.
So question 1, could this benefit in the age that we live in from an update/remake? And if so, what do you think you would do with that? What would be fun to see, if anything?
Oh, I think it could. Obviously, the CG would be better. They should probably still stick to practical effects as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think what they should do is actually probably try to explain the technology less. Like, leave it up to the viewer to be like, oh, it's just, I don't understand how this works. Instead of, they threw out a lot of lingo that only really made it make less sense.
I'm with you. I think an update or remake would be fine. I think you still need Trickster. The movie.
Yeah, you still need Trickster, and I would be hesitant to change the actor, even though he's significantly older now.
Well, with makeup, you wouldn't be able to tell.
No, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. No, because he was definitely done up quite a bit with that makeup.
Oh, so much. And again, like I mentioned to everybody, I'm going to post pictures on socials because he's vastly different looking than Trickster.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think explain the technology less, but also I wanted to know, do you think keep it a disc game, or what do you think technology is now? Do we switch it to an online format?
Oh, nowadays, like it could still be a disc game. Like I would probably keep it a disc game just because it would nowadays with like you can download all your games. So
Yeah.
I think it would make it more realistically an underground experience, something that's not too common to everybody if it's a disc.
Oh, and it makes it more fun and forbidden too.
Yeah, it makes it a little more forbidden. It's like, oh, this is something not everybody can have because it only has this one copy or something like that.
Oh, I like that idea. So, question 2, if the technology was close, like I don't know how close you think we might be to real technology like they try to make it in this movie, would you play a game like this? Would you undergo this experience?
Maybe not this exact type of experience, but yeah, I think I would. I think I'd enjoy like a very realistic experience that plays out in your mind.
Do you think we're close at all to this kind of technology?
No, not really. It's a long ways away for that kind of scanning, I guess you could call it, of your mind and your thoughts.
Okay, okay. I would not play a game like this. I am not much of a gamer anyway. I like my old 8-bit Nintendo.
Mhm.
Legend of Zelda. But yeah, I don't think I would want something this realistic. And I don't think we're, as much as we like to say we're advancing in technology, I don't think we're zapping into people's brains
No,
anytime soon.
No, not anytime soon.
All right, so question 3. Let's play Where Are They Now? So, what do you think about Kyle? What happened to Kyle?
Kyle, I imagine Kyle got married and had a family, probably got a regular steady job and got over the grunge thing. Probably still watches B horror movies with his buddies while playing cards.
Okay, I like it. And what do you think happened to Michael?
I think Michael's in jail and he's a registered sex offender.
And Kimberly, what happened to our fair Kimberly?
Ooh, I don't know, honestly. Kimberly seemed like she might have been a little troubled, so she has two possibilities of either turning out pretty damn well because she seemed to have a nice supportive family, or
Okay.
she went down the road of, interacting with Michael too much, maybe becoming addicted to heroin or something.
Oh my God, you took it so dark.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think anything good can come from interacting with Michael very often.
So I'm with you. I think Michael, because of his dad being gone all the time, absentee father, and
Yeah.
no mom, and the guilt of the accident, which wasn't his fault, he
Hmm.
turns to, yeah, drugs, jail, crime, whatever. Like nothing good
Hmm.
comes of Michael's life, unfortunately.
No.
Now, I think Kyle, I think he's just pot smoking, grunge listening, chill, fun guy, goes maybe to college, working the job, hanging out with the bros, just normal life. But I think he also on the side has a podcast about true crime
Huh?
because he was obsessed with like this game, like totally freaked out and killed people and like totally
Yeah.
obsessed with like the murder. Like he was into it.
Yeah, he
So I
could probably make a documentary about like brain scan and how it's a problematic game.
Oh, there you go. There you go. He's a guerrilla documentary filmmaker.
Yeah.
And then Kimberly, I went a bit gentler of a route. I picture her as New England soccer mom who probably
Hmm.
has a photography Instagram.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, super mellow, has nothing to do with Michael or Kyle or anybody else in that town, probably. So yeah, I like a
I could
happier
see
ending
that.
for her. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see a happy ending for her as
Yeah.
long as she stays away from Michael.
Because Michael sucks.
Michael sucks.
All right. Well, on that note, we are going to wrap up our discussion on Brain Scan. Anybody out there, if you want to watch it, unfortunately, season 4, part 2 here, the second half is coming later in the year. So when we did watch this, it was available on Tubi and Amazon Prime. I don't know where it's going to be available now.
It is on YouTube.
Okay, great. I personally own the DVD, so I had no problem watching it.
Yeah, but I have a digital copy.
There you go. See, we're doing it right. This is one that I can revisit every few years and have a good time with it.
Oh yeah, and with the digital copy, you can read the newspaper.
All right. Well, Marcus, thank you so much for joining me to discuss this today. I'm so happy that you are a fan of this movie. I didn't think other people like you existed.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Always like to do movies that I know and enjoy.
All right. And if you enjoyed, listeners, our discussion, like I said, Marcus was also on the Cinema Shitshow Masters of the Universe episode. You can check him out there. And you know where to find us on socials. Just listen for the tag at the end. And on that note, we want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
You get up at 3:30 in the morning. You get to the studio at 4 in the morning. You sit in a chair from 4 in the morning to about 8:39, getting the makeup put on. It's all put on with medical adhesive, which is serious stuff, not skin friendly, not eyelash friendly. I mean, it pulls out your eyelashes. I mean, it finds anything and clings to it. So you're putting on these different layers. I think it was 8 different pieces. And then the eyes, and then the teeth, and then the fingers, and then the wig, and then the costume. So, you're moving like a ladder, basically. You're being walked to the set. You can't really see very well. You're kind of blind. You can't pick anything up. And you're acting like this. You're getting a performance like this. You have to exaggerate everything. And that was what we were figuring out, and what John was pointing out, is that if I raised my eyebrows, up to here, it just was a small indication. And if I thought I was doing a very subtle, artful thing with my eyebrows, it wouldn't show at all. So you're acting through something almost like a Greek mask. You're projecting it out and realizing that there's sort of an equation where doing something very big inside emotionally reads in a very small way on the screen. So we had to sort of calibrate that as we went along. I would not realize what I looked like, because you feel like yourself. And I was taller because there were lifts in the shoes as well. So, and it's got the big shoulders and it's got the hair up to here. But you forget after a while. And, I'd go and I'd tap someone on the shoulder and I'd say, "Excuse me," and they would turn around and see, trickster. And I would forget that it was, it was scary for them, but you just felt like, yourself, so I was frightening people all day long.
Hey listeners, Movie Miss here, saying we know you have a lot of options when it comes to podcasts, so we want to thank you so much for listening to ours. Please make sure to find us on our socials and join us, be part of our bad movie conversations. We want to chat with you. We're on Facebook with an official page, as well as a Let's Talk Turkeys discussion group, where you can talk with other like-minded individuals who like bad movies. We're on Instagram at Let's Talk Turkeys. Our Twitter handle is at Gobble Podcast. That's GOBBLEPODCAST. And of course, you can always email us direct. We would love to get suggestions from you of movies you would like us to cover. If you want to be a guest on the show, we would love that. So directly, that's Let's Talk Turkeys, all one word, at yahoo.com.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.